Hey, how's it going everyone? Great to have you here in this video. If you're thinking about or if you've already started practicing pronunciation or some type of accent training, then this video is going to be really important and helpful for you. In this video, I'm going to break down some tips and some strategies that are going to help you move forward in a realistic and productive way. As you move forward through your pronunciation journey, it's really important for you to know what you're getting yourself into so that you can make realistic goals and keep yourself moving forward and staying motivated. Throughout my many years training students to speak with an American accent, I've seen a lot of students have success, and I've also seen students not reach their goals and sometimes not make progress. And the main common denominator that I see with those students who aren't reaching their goals, seeing progress, is that they didn't have realistic expectations and they didn't have an organized system to move them through the path of learning. So let's jump into it. Here's 9 tips for success in pronunciation training. The first tip is understanding the pathway of learning for accent training. So no matter what topic you're working on or practicing, there's always 3 steps that you have to move through to gain success or to see improvement. So the first step is to tune your ear to the sound of American English. So each specific topic that you're working on, you want to spend time listening to the difference between you and a native speaker so that you can really have a goal or a direction that you're moving yourself towards. If you don't hear clearly the difference between yourself and a native speaker, you're always going to be moving towards something that you're not really sure what it is. So the best way to do that is just listening, and if you can, using slow motion. It might take several times, it might take even more than several times, but the more you listen, the more your ear will become adjusted and you'll be able to hear that difference. The second step, after you've gained the ability to hear the difference in the pronunciation, now you have to teach your body to do something new that it's probably never done before. So this is going to take some guessing and checking, some trial and error, pushing yourself in and out of your comfort zone and using different parts of your body and muscles that haven't been used either ever or for a really long time. So you need to get past that step, number 2, to train your body how to do it. The third and final step is probably the most time consuming step, and this is where you train and repeat until this new skill that you just taught your body to hear and create becomes a habit. So it's different for every person, depends on your experience, where you are now, the type of learner you are, but you need to do enough repetitions until that new skill becomes your new habit. The next tip is that you need to approach this with consistency and a forward-looking vision. Just like any other skill that you've mastered in your life, you need to look at accent training in a similar way, that you're going to develop these skills over time through experience and practice. I often compare accent training to going to the gym. If a fat person wants to get skinny, they need to have consistency, forward-looking vision. Same if a skinny person wants to get really big muscles. You need to have discipline and consistency to keep moving forward towards your goal. And just like going to the gym, in the beginning, it won't be easy. You're not going to be familiar with the exercises. You're not going to be familiar with the goals. Things might seem difficult, challenging. You might even feel at first that your body's not built to do this. But similar to going to the gym, the more you continue to push yourself in that direction and create that habit until it becomes something that's not new, that's when you'll start to really see the change and see the benefits or the results of your training. The next tip is that you have to be prepared to feel silly and fail. So developing American sound is going to require you to take yourself outside of your comfort zone and do things that you don't think are natural or even correct. But for my ears, the way you're doing it sounds more natural. Just like if I was to try to speak your language and do the things that create the sound of your native language. For example, in Spanish, the rolling R. For me, it sounds extreme. I don't understand why you need to roll your R so many times for someone to understand it's an R, but for the native speaker, that's what creates that really clear sound. And that's what's gonna happen as you're moving into that American voice as well. Visualization and mental rehearsal. So this might seem silly, it might seem very abstract, but it is a proven method to move towards your goals. There's many examples of athletes who visualize the event or the competition beforehand mind and use that to their advantage to increase or enhance their performance. So as you're moving through your pronunciation journey, you should be imagining yourself speaking fluently, speaking relaxed, very clearly, very naturally. You might even want to imagine yourself taking on another personality, and imagine if you were the same you, but you had born in Chicago or in Kansas. So you have the same body, but now you have a little bit different attitude, a little bit different personality, and a different way of speaking. You should use visualization almost every day, especially before, during, and after your practice. Let your ears guide you. Do not trust your eyes. So when you're starting out with pronunciation training, sometimes your eyes can be your worst enemies because your eyes are already trained to look and recognize a certain symbol and find something that's close to that in your native language and reproduce it in a similar way. So your eyes automatically send that message to your brain that use that sound that isn't exactly the sound of American English, but it's something close. The most effective strategy is to just close your eyes and listen and let your ears tune themselves to the qualities, the characteristics of the American sound. When you're practicing, you should choose some type of audio material that you can control and listen and repeat. Listen and repeat. You should always be listening to the original audio and then repeating so that your brain and your body can move itself closer to that original sound. If you're just repeating yourself, you're going to stay kind of locked into that hamster cycle of yourself as an example and then you following that example. You also want to make sure that the material that you're using is something that you're comfortable listening to many times, because like I mentioned before, you're going to need to do a lot of repetition for your practice to be effective. Have some type of warm-up routine. So if you've ever taken my class, you know that especially in the first few weeks, I always have my students warm themselves up by doing vocal exercises and making sure that they're finding their pathway of the voice so that they can move into that more relaxed American posture. You don't want to jump into your practice and warm up as you go, because you're going to be practicing things in a way that is not your goal and it's not going to move you forward. So you want to make sure that you establish that relaxed posture, you're finding your pathway of the voice, doing whatever vocal exercises that you prefer, and then moving into your practice so that it can be as effective as possible. So this is one of the biggest tools, the most effective tools that you can use. You've already studied the characteristics of the sound. Now you can go back, play it, analyze it, listen to the differences, check out your mouth positions, and make adjustments, and that right there can be really effective and powerful feedback for you to visually see and hear yourself on the recording. Focus on placement and rhythm. So from my experience, almost all of the things that create students' accent or make students sound less clear when they're speaking come from two different fundamental topics of American English: placement and rhythm. If you focus on those two things, it's going to basically cover all of the other issues that you have regarding to clarity and natural sound. Placement and rhythm are the beginning for everything else. So any other topic that you study in American English in the accent, you're going to need to first start out with placement and rhythm and apply those ideas to each topic. So it's really important that from the beginning, even though those are some of the most challenging topics, that you make sure you have a really good control and understanding and ear for those things. In American English, speed does not equal fluency, intelligence, or control over the language. In fact, there are many people who prefer not to talk or not to listen to people who speak really fast. It makes them uncomfortable. They feel like they're getting overloaded with words. So it is not a key, or it's not a goal that you should aim for to see how fast you can make the sounds come out. If you take Barack Obama, for an example, he's generally considered to be a very good speaker, and if you listen to the speed that he speaks, it is not fast. In fact, I think that I speak much faster than him, at least in my videos. So speed, intelligence, or fluency is not part of the same idea in American English. Generally, in American English, we're trying to do things as simple as possible. So we don't like to add a lot of words. We don't like to add a lot of information. We like to have things direct and just be as easy and as clear as possible. So if you study the language, even with grammar, we use contractions, right? We don't use full forms as much. So it really gives us the opportunity to focus on highlighting the most important parts of the sound. And when you study rhythm, you'll notice that making your unstressed syllables actually helps you move through your speech at a faster speed without turning up the speed. So you're just making those unstressed stressed syllables shorter, and that helps you move through at what seems to be a faster pace, but it really is just a shorter pace, which is less complicated. So there you go. Those are some tips that you should be using and thinking about and applying to your practice right from the beginning, so that you have the ability to move through in a productive way, and that's going to take you to a place where you want to be, where you can see some results. So now that you know some of the best practices for accent training, it's your turn to take those things, put them into practice, and you just boosted up your English.